the reason this is so crucial is because in a macro sense, you know this. We've been talking about this a lot. We live in a moment. Gary Vaynerchuk has sort of been leading our charge, so to speak, in terms of his great book, Day Trading Attention, that you should check out. It really is great, because it's basically about how we live in a moment when the most effective marketing in the world is free and democratized, and that is social media, and that it's not going to last forever. And again, caveat up front, this is not about 2 million followers on TikTok and posting 8 TikTok. It's not what it's about. It is about finding your voice on socials, i.e. that great episode with Gus, who is a really interesting dynamic artist, in order to what? Grow an owned audience, because growing an owned audience is part of what is our most powerful tool today. And yet, how many artists, actors, especially straight actors, quote unquote, struggle with this because they care so much about what other people think about them. So they end up essentially not posting because, going back to the desperate piece, they don't want to seem like a tryhard.
Well, you know what's interesting about that? Oh, sorry.
No, you get where I'm going.
Well, I was going to say, like, what he said that you're getting at that I think sort of changed the paradigm for me is any excuse you have for not being active on socials, probably 95% of it is that it's actually a fear of what other people think. It's not time. It's not because it's not like I don't know what to post, because if you didn't give a shit what people thought, then you would post whatever the fuck and then find what works. You would learn,
which is exactly what Gus did.
Publicly falling on your face. Exactly. You'd be okay with publicly falling on your face and learning.
Right.
But the number one reason why people is like, oh, like, I don't know what to post. I don't want to, I want to be on brand even, which, yes, ideally, but at the end of the day, like, you have to learn by action. And I think it is probably the number one reason, if you are not actively using socials, I would frame it that the number one reason you're not doing it is because you're probably afraid of what people think of you.
Totally agree.
If you engage.
And obviously, there are things like, well, it's so much work. I mean, there's lots of things that make it challenging. But the other thing, and this is interesting, is I always find it fascinating when people say, well, I delete the apps all the time.
Right.
And because it's that, and in some ways it's not even about just sharing content. Part of what social media does is it makes you compare. You look at this because and you're looking at other people's big successes or seeming successes, just to state an obvious.
Right.
It's all curated. It's all bullshit, and that's what kills me too about social media. It's not real. It's not real life. No one's out there like, this is my real exact authentic self. I just don't buy that people do that. Even when Gus posted that thirst trap today, and I saw you liked it. Gus is really making an appearance in this episode, and his caption was something like, it was like a shirtless pic at him at the gym, and he was like, it's always so hard because you want to post a thirst trap, but then you're completely devastated when it doesn't. He puts it through the lens of humor when it doesn't get enough likes. But the truth is like, it's like we just play this fucking dance on social media where we try to get the same end result. You and I talk about this all the time with even our artist strategy, obviously, and how it relates to our audience, but most importantly, that we're so afraid of what people think. I think it's actually easier with us with something like artist strategy and creative risk, because it's not necessarily our souls, but when it's you, the individual, when you are posting shit, this fear looms over us and stops us in our tracks. And I think you brought up a good point. We're not even able to get, because this is the big thing about this whole episode. We're not even able to get into the cycle of let me fail. Let me put the content out, which is what social media requires you to do, to put shit out there in order to fail, in order to go, let me then try something else instead.